we found an opportunity and sort of just decided to make it work. So that's kind of how it was. It was kind of like I felt compelled to do it. It was almost like I didn't have a choice. I sort of just had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyone else? Go ahead.
So you said that your dad dismissed the idea about opening a Pita pit like back in the day. So was he happy when you actually like just went for it and made it happen?
I think he was happy, but also very, very concerned. You know, particularly with leases and stuff like that. I mean, they want guarantees, and so they weren't going to let me guarantee it. I didn't have anything, so my dad had to put his name on it. And I don't know. I think I'm very fortunate and very lucky. I can't imagine, at least with the restaurant business, and I'm not sure with your guys' situation, but even the SBA, for SBA loan, they require half down. I mean, if you got that kind of cash sitting around in your bank account, you probably don't want to work in a restaurant 12 to 14 hours a day. So, you know, I was fortunate enough with my dad. He put some cash on the line for me. And I think, you know, to answer your question, he was happy that maybe I found something and I was going to go ahead and go for it. You know, my grandfather on my mom's side and my dad all had their own businesses. So I kind of always knew I was going to be doing something kind of on my own, hopefully. My dad actually kind of lost out on his first couple businesses. One in '89, he lost like 3 properties when the price of oil tanked and lost everything in Fairbanks. Then another time, he had a bus bench business in Fairbanks and he was trying to help his brother out. And I forget exactly what happened, but his brother ended up lighting the whole building on fire and had no insurance, and it's just like, so he's been devastated. His first 2 businesses, like, you know, not really that he can control, you know, the price of oil and then his brother messing up, and probably a bad thing not having insurance, but he was down in the dumps twice before that, and, you know, we've been operating the first Pita pit for about a year and a half now, and they usually say, hey, if you can just get through the first 3 years, you're generally going to be okay. So I've got that 18 months left on my calendar. I'm just counting down every single day and making sure I show up. But yeah, to answer your question, I think he was just happy to maybe see me finally figure out what I was going to do, and he knew I was unhappy with my desk job, and, you know, so. And I think he's extra happy that it's worked out and that he hasn't lost anything yet. And hopefully he doesn't have to. But, so.
Go ahead. Why don't you go, and then we'll get to Al.
All right. I think all of you mentioned throughout the process of getting your business off the ground different obstacles that took place. And I mean, now you just kind of laugh at it because you got past it. But I guess, could you talk a little bit about your thought process during those times where it's like, dang, this might not work? Or,
can I please answer part of that?
Yeah.
Your comment that when you said it's just like a physical feeling where it's just like you have to do something on your own. Like that's exactly like it for getting through those moments where it's like, oh, this isn't working out. This is a really bad idea. One of my favorite Steve Jobs quotes is in a really obscure video of him where he was like being interviewed when he had started a company called Next. He was, you know, and he was doing okay, but he was doing Next because he got kicked out of Apple. You know, most people didn't think Steve Jobs was super cool. He didn't make the iPod yet. And he was asked for like his advice about being an entrepreneur, and he said, like, just absolutely don't do it unless you absolutely have to. Like, don't do it unless you love it. And like you've had that physical feeling where I can't do anything else. As far as struggles, like, I don't know. I remember being like borderline homeless in college, like breaking into college dorms. I hope nobody at college sees this, to like sleep somewhere in the summer, like while trying to like work on top of other hours. I remember when I started the company in like as a team, I was doing it from Thailand. So I was like what kind of an idiot am I? I'm like waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to like call people in the U.S. so they think I'm on the U.S. work schedule. Like, who does this? Like, this clearly is not a good idea. And just so many things like times like that, or even now, I'm just like, hey, what am I doing here? I don't feel like I'm the right guy doing the right thing on anything. But it's like things work out. You just have to have the patience and the tenacity, like push through, I guess.
And I would also say, I think your question was, hey, do you remember back when, it was really terrifying, and how did you get through those moments? It's never really stopped being terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing is just sort of really terrifying.
You don't get through it, you just get new terrors.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's always something new to be terrified about, pretty much. Yeah. But, it's kind of one of those things too where you have to be comfortable. It's kind of a cliche, but they say just jump out of the plane and build your parachute on the way down, and hopefully you get it done by the time you get close to the ground. So you kind of feel like that all the time, At least that's the way I feel. It's like we're always just sort of pushing it, and it always just seems to work out, I mean, it's not completely random and without planning. You do the best job you can, but it's never secure. You never feel like you get past the terrifying stage. At least that's the way it is for us.
Yeah.
And it's different too when you own it. When it's yours, you don't want to see it fail. And you've put your everything into it. You have, financial liability for it, but it's also your idea and your passion. And so if it's something that you truly care about, obstacles pop up, but it's like, we're going to deal with this, like losing our investor after we quit our jobs. That's huge. Or we actually had a different location that we almost opened, and at the last minute didn't sign a lease, and it was like, we're back to square one again. Or not, the first day we opened and no one showed up. So, you have those sorts of like, this is maybe not going to work. And then, I'm lucky I have an amazing partner. And so that's good and bad. I mean, it's great because if I'm ever starting, like I've had those moments where it's like, this might not work, or what are we doing? And then, she can build me back up. And it's like, oh yeah, I have her on my side. Like I have her on my team. Together we can figure this out. There's more brain power. But then it's also like, maybe it's also kind of bad because sometimes I go, maybe, people will say we're brave, or you were courageous to do that. And I don't feel brave. I don't feel courageous. I just kind of did it. And so sometimes I think, maybe she's egging me on, and it's not and so, you have those moments, but a lot of it, it's different than, when you're working for somebody else, because at the end of the day, it's yours, you own it, you just get through the obstacles.
Yeah, it's definitely important to believe yourself. There's definitely moments where no one else will, so you lose a lot, you gain a lot, lose friends, gain good friends. I definitely learned a lot through the whole thing. I mean, I almost had my company stolen from me a couple times, and legal issues, and one of my best friends tried to claim that he made it, and
11 months ago, you said you got the idea. What did you do before that? Did you come together as a twosome that wanted to do something, and you were thinking of an idea, and you came together on that? And what were some of the other ideas you maybe thought about? I'm just curious. Or was it just this one, and then you went off and did it?
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the right way, but
It probably wasn't the right way.
I think it was a lot of, commiserating about how terrible work is and blah, 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 lots of wine. So we talked about wanting to go into business together. What can we do? And that's really, honestly how it started. And we also talked a lot about, we're both really engaged in the community. We both serve on a handful of nonprofit boards and in the public sector as well. And we want to stay here. We want to raise our families here. We want our friends to stop leaving the state because there's not enough reasons to keep them here. And so that was a lot of the passion behind co-working, both because the concept was new and progressive, but it would keep our friends here if there was a cool space for them to work and find a community. I don't know. I don't think our other ideas were worth your time.
And we had a couple other ideas, and we still do have cool ideas. And one of the things was the co-working was kind of like the base that needed to happen first for some of the other ideas that we had. And it was the one idea where we realized, okay, this might not work out, but hey, we've got a really gorgeous, cool space to work out of to build our next business plan if it goes belly up. So.
Yeah.
That's another question real quick. A couple of you said you had plans. How many of you did not do a business plan? Oh, everybody did? You didn't do one?
Yes.
You're the outlier?
I think it started too early to really have a business plan. And I always had clients kind of asking me to do things, and then the business plan kind of worked out of that. There were planning moments, and we certainly got more formalized as we went on. As it grew, we got more strategic, but there was no initial, I mean, geez, that was 10 years ago. I was a college kid, just kind of happened to me.
I somewhat did a business plan. I had a big goal to do it, and I was starting the business as I was writing it. And it certainly morphed, and it's interesting to look back and go, God, was I really thinking that? There's no way, there's no resemblance whatsoever. But like I said, the book, The E-Myth, I really enjoyed that book because it really talks about, think about not where you're today, but where you want to be down here. And so that's where I'm really thinking about is like, okay, where do I really want to be at the end? But
Where is that?
I would love, my vision would be have a big fleet of food trucks, have a big garage with a commissary and me sitting above, and here's my fleet down here, and I'm sitting here logisticizing, deploying them, and doing everything for the community. Just, they're saying about the community, it's great because there's an opportunity. We do a lot of work with Visit Anchorage and Anchorage Downtown Partnership and Community Works. And I've lived here my entire life. I had no idea that these entities existed or all the things that happen in the community. And I love doing things. We're doing like a fishing game event down at Potter's Marsh again. In June, we do all the Anchorage Downtown Partnership events. They call and I go, okay, I'll be there. And, Community Works call and they go, the request was, we really would like you there at noon, but we need you at 5. And I'm like, okay, we'll be there. So it's just a great opportunity to get out in the community. A lot of people follow us on Facebook because it's like, okay, where are they going to be? What's going on in town? So that's the really fun aspect of getting out in the community and doing things. We park at Parks and Rec a lot. No, people go, I never knew this park existed. So I enjoy being that part of the community, getting people out and involved also.
You know what, you reminded me, now I take it back. I remember the first time I wrote a business plan was right after I wrote The E-Myth. And I wrote a 3-year plan, and that was the book that also transformed me from freelancer to team of 3 within a year, and then team of 8 later. And the Works, of course, had a business plan. We have a business plan.
I think I saw a hand up over here.
Yeah, how do you guys keep yourselves on track? Like either after the business plan, I guess. Like
Well,
to
Herman.
make your goals.
He keeps me on track back there.
Well, let's see, I don't know, because I don't really have to tell myself to stay on track. It's like the plate in front of me is full. So it's like, what did you say? You said it keeps you on, you don't keep yourself on track, the business keeps you on track, or something like that. You don't have a choice, you got all this stuff going on in front of you.
Yeah, I found it saying it's much more difficult to remember to take personal time. Like
Yes.
the business is not your life, because like when you feel that ownership, you're like, oh, this is mine. If the business fails, I fail. If the client's unhappy, it's a personal thing on me, and you have to really practice letting go.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge is a work-life balance, because nobody's gonna care as much about your business as you. And if employees or someone else doesn't show up, guess what? You gotta do it. So it's totally engrossing, and the work never stops. So you gotta absolutely be into it, because you're gonna be thinking about it. If you're not working, you're at home and you're thinking about it, so.
Oh God, yes. Please do not start a business if you want to work less.
Yeah, wrong.
Bad idea.
Wrong.
I think one
idea.
of
When people say that.
the key things too is like having, like if you're hiring employees, like having super solid people just to have your back. Like if you need something done, have those people that you know that's gonna get it done.
So I started my own business in Boise. So I've met some of you. I created my own personal driving company, and it came out of serving my mother for 12 years. She never drove. And when she passed, I knew I had to make a living. And it just evolved, and I never did a business plan, and now I want to start another business up here, a different business. So I'm looking for, I don't have the credit to allow me to do the small business loan, I don't have a father to give me the financing, so I'm in that place now, and I need to get help with the funding. So could you guys give any?
So you're asking for a loan, is that?
I am.
Well, I can tell you how we did it. I mean, we had zero. I mean, we had just a small amount of savings, and really, you have to kind of tap into sort of this informal financing. It's like friends and family and people that you know. And so Jamie and I are really involved in the road cycling division, you know. And as it turns out, you get to know a lot of great people. Part of it's community, and a lot of the people that are into road cycling, you know, they have money. You know, they're older, more established people, and you get to know them, and they trust you, and you can hang out, and then so the subject comes up. Hey, we're going to do this. They understand what you're trying to do because it's a passion that they share, and so they're like, oh, you guys don't strike me as idiots, so maybe I will help you out, you know, and that's pretty much how we got started. I mean, it was basically friends, and our families weren't in a position to help us out, so we couldn't tap into our families. We got all of the money essentially from friends. Yeah, it was all friends.
And did they just give it to you without wanting it back, or was it
Oh, they
a
wanted it
percentage
back.
that they?
Oh, they wanted it. Hey, so these were lawyers that we were borrowing money from, right? So
I have a lawyer.
yeah. So you don't, you know.
I would like to point out my dad charges me a higher interest rate than the bank. That's not a lie.
And then for us too, we kind of did we were fortunate where we had kind of an owner finance. We were buying an existing business, and we went to the bank. Like, I didn't have a job. I'm like, oh man, I'm working like crazy, and no. So the business we purchased was owner financed, and the guy, but same thing, your interest is going to be higher, and then whatever other money we needed, we asked from friends and family. So, and it's really hard to ask somebody for money. I mean, like adults, like you're asking your buddies, and it's just really difficult to ask. And I mean, it's been really funny because we've asked. When we ask, it's usually not that big of a deal. To them, it's like, oh, that's cool, and we're like, oh, that's a lot of money. You're gonna give it to us. So,
Are you sure?
And we haven't lost any relationships because of any of those things. So it's been really good for us. So.
I think something, I'm not an expert on it whatsoever. I just read the article in Inc. This last month, but crowdfunding might be a good opportunity.
What is it?
Crowdfunding. I think the SEC just is starting to formulate like ways to do. I think there's would be 8 agencies that you could go through. I think crowdfunding would be a great test. It's up to $1 million is my understanding per year.
So I don't get the
Crowdfunding is like
the boardroom. I heard that term at the boardroom, and I never heard it.
it's basically online, and I think it's going to be a good test. I'm not sure what your idea is, and I don't think I would get crowdfunded for a Pita Pit restaurant, but I think it's to be for maybe more original ideas and stuff like that. But essentially, you're going to be asking people online, maybe investors like myself or my dad. You can go, it's like a one-stop shop. You see all these other ideas, and you can even sort them by areas and stuff like that.
Kickstarter, is that similar?
It's very similar,
Okay.
yeah. But I'm not sure that familiar with Kickstarter. I think for this one, it's less than $1 million. I mean, it's kind of, very. It's not. You're not going to be getting funded for like the next PayPal or Google on the site. It's, I think, more for small businesses.
Crowdfunding.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've been up here since September. I moved up for my grandson, and I started working here